slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
How much rest is too much during taper? That's another question I was recently asked, and I get a lot of different viewpoints in terms of what works best for marathon success, especially for this particular event. Recently, I was asked a question in regards to the taper. There was an athlete that left a comment on one of my videos, and he said, should my last long run, when I'm planning on doing a long run 7 days out, but I'm going to do 3 times 3K at goal marathon race pace, and run the last mile at 20 seconds below goal marathon race pace for my last long run. And his last long run was supposed to be like 32K. He was going to do like a 20 miler, and he was 7 days out from his goal marathon. Okay, my advice to him was, no, don't do that. Again, this is going to vary, okay? This is just my viewpoint. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong, but I just know what worked best for me and help me go from a 243 marathoner down to 219, okay? That's a massive jump in ability. You're going from 614 mile pace for 26.2 miles to 519 mile pace, or 318 per K for 42K, okay? You have to have a long-term approach when it comes to the marathon. And the taper, in my opinion, I think a 10-day taper is key, okay? I think how much rest is too much during taper. I think that if you start dropping your volume and your intensity 4 weeks out or even like 3 weeks out, a lot of times, and it doesn't, a lot of times athletes feel more lethargic and tired. They feel like they started dropping their intensity and volume too soon, okay? My advice, keep your volume, keep your intensity high up until 10 days out from your goal race. So what I told that athlete, I said, if you're doing a long run of that length, 32K 7 days out is too far, okay? I would do, if you're doing a long run only 7 days out, a week out from your goal marathon, it should be maybe like between 9 and 12 miles, okay? And as I told him, just run the last mile of your last long run at goal marathon race pace, just to rev the engine a little bit, okay? You're still getting that endurance, and there's little you can do in the last few days of a marathon, okay? In terms of anaerobic training and aerobic training, you've already built the heavy amount of foundation of aerobic mileage already, okay? So, but when it comes to the taper, it's just really maintenance at this point, okay? Don't overthink the process. Don't overthink it, okay? A lot of times we do so many things, like we worry about the competition and who's run what, and those are other things that are, it's outside of your control. So to lessen the amount of stress that you're placing on yourself mentally and worrying about those types of things that are really, like I said, are outside of your control, minimize that. Focus more so on what have I done in the past 16 weeks, 20, 24 weeks of my buildup. Have I ran a few races, a couple 10Ks, 5Ks, half marathons? Have I prepped properly to race this marathon properly, okay? Have I trained adequately at my goal race pace as well as below my goal race pace? As I talk about in other videos, or if you're just starting to watch my videos, I always look back, and this was what helped me in the marathon distance and in tapering as well. I studied what were the best coaches teaching to their athletes, what were the best runners doing to be able to sustain that goal race pace for such a long period of time. How are they improving their lactate tolerance? Okay, so I was spending a lot of time running under 5 minute mile pace in training. I was doing my tempo runs, and usually it would last anywhere from around 10 to 12 miles in length. I did my tempo runs. I got to a point where I was doing tempo runs in between 51 and 54 minutes for 10 miles, going through the 10 mile mark of a 12 miler. Okay, so again, I was doing repeat miles, repeat 1600s, 9 meters short of a mile, but close enough. I was doing repeat 1600s on the track at altitude usually between like 6 to 8 reps, between 442 to 444, with a 60-second to 90-second recovery in between each one of those mile reps at my peak. Okay, this was when I was 30 to 31 years old, 32 years old. Okay, I'm 48 now, and I'm retired from the sport now. But when I was at my peak, those were the types of workouts. I was doing repeat 2 miles on the track in the 950s at altitude at 6,000 feet. Okay, those types of workouts helped me to run under the 220 marathon barrier. I ran 2:19:35, okay, in 2007. And I used a 10-day taper. I also spent a lot of time running my miles, doing long runs, varied pace long runs as I teach in my courses and in my training plans. I didn't run every single weekend slow for my long run, okay? That tactic helped me to drop almost 22 minutes off of my marathon time, okay? And going from 243 to 219 was not easy. It took me 5 years. When I first started running marathons in 2002, it took me from 2002, when I ran my debut in 243, to 2007 to run 219. So it was an additional 5 years of training and tweaking what was working and what wasn't working. What didn't work for me was a 3-week taper. And again, it's not to say that you can't get a new PR with a 3-week taper. I'm sure many of you already have set new PRs working off of a 21-day taper. But if you keep your intensity high and your volume high up until 10 days out, just know that 10 days is plenty of time to drop the intensity, start working on recovering. 10 days is plenty of time to recover from all those hard months of training. So if you've felt flat going into races in the past and you haven't felt as strong, consider doing, instead of a 21-day taper, do a 10-day taper and see how you feel. It's not a guarantee, because a lot of you already understand this as well, and the marathon especially. You can do everything right and still not get it right. Okay, I certainly I've been there. I've had incredible buildups, but I didn't time it right. Okay, even looking back, in 2011, I was trying to improve my 2:19:35 PR at the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon. Okay, going into even running 2:19, my fastest 20 miler at altitude was 1:56. Okay, I don't know what it comes out to, like in the 5:40s per mile pace. But again, that was at 6,000 feet. But going into 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon, I ran a 20 miler at 1:50:02, 5:30 per mile for 20 miles straight. But it was at sea level. But I did that long run, 6 weeks out from the race. Okay, what I really should have done, and I'm saying this because a lot of times we mismanage our timing and our fitness level. If you're in that type of shape, if you do a really strong long run, or you do or you do a race like a half marathon, and maybe you're trying to break 3 hours, and you go out and you run a 120 half, but your marathon is like 7 weeks away. My advice is to try to find a marathon that's maybe 3 weeks away. Run that. Change your schedule, because you're so fit right now. If you drop a 120 and you're trying to break 3 hours, you're in well under sub 3 hour marathon shape if you can do that. So don't span out your training too far out to the point where you get fatigued and you get stale. Sometimes it's just the timing, and I wish, in my case, when I ran that 150 for 20 miles in training, it was a training run. I mean, I didn't feel overly tired at the end. I was tired, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I raced that 20 miler. But the fact that I was able to average, 5 teens, 520s, low 530s, and average out at 530, I really should have found a marathon that was maybe like 3 weeks out from doing that particular workout versus 6 weeks out and running the Monumental Indianapolis Marathon. I ended up running 2:26 that day, finishing in 5th. And I did have to jump in a porta john, and I lost probably about 2 or 3 minutes off of that 2:26 time. I really don't know how fast I would have ran that day. I don't know if I would have ran under 2:19 flat, which is what I needed to qualify for the 2012 Olympic trials. But again, I was the fittest I ever was in my life, but it's timing too. So I want to share that with you as well. If in the future, in the next few months from now, if you get in phenomenal shape and you drop something insane in training or in a race, consider adjusting your schedule and maybe plan on running your marathon maybe 3 weeks out, 2.5 to 3 weeks out from that particular just crazy effort that you dropped. Okay. Also know that the taper, like I said, tapering, it gives you enough time to recover from the hard training you're doing. And I think that once you're 10 days out, you should drop your weekly volume about 60% from the week before. And then, like I say to other athletes when they're running a marathon, I think really the last workout, your last long run, like I said, should be if you're 4 weeks out from your goal marathon race, your long run should be around 22 to 24 miles. Then 3 weeks out, it should be like around 16 to 18 miles. 2 weeks out, you really should be dropping, okay? Maybe like 11 to 12 miles. And then 1 week out, it really should be very light. It shouldn't even really be a long run. I mean, it's going to be like 8 or 9 miles. And just the 4 days out from your goal marathon race, do a 3 mile or 5K run at goal marathon race pace with a 1 mile warm up, 1.6K warm up, 1.6K cool down. That should be your one last effort to run at goal race pace, rev the engine, get your heart rate up a little bit. But I think that's really should be the last workout you should be doing going into your goal marathon. 10 days. 10 days, in most cases, I've seen a lot of athletes reached out to me that have done this, have set new personal best, have run faster than they've ever run in the past. And I think it's a good approach. Like I said, nothing's guaranteed in this event, not only this event, but in track and field. All of you know this. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but sometimes we can do every single thing right. Got proper sleep, did everything right nutritionally, our buildup was right, and we still didn't perform on the day. As I was talking with my nephew the other day, and he just recently dropped a PR in the 5,000. This was at his track event. He ran 14:43, and we were talking, and I said, I wish when we raced at our best every single time. And we never really had a bad workout. We never had a bad race. It just always was perfect. And he kind of smiled at me. He's like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Uncle Nate. And it's like, but the thing is, it's just that consistency and persistence. Okay, if you're willing to do it long enough and accept the bumps along the way, adjust your tapering and find out what works. If you're not getting results from a 3-week taper, then consider doing maybe a 2-week taper. Okay, and see how that one works. Then go to 10 days. But like I said, 10 days is plenty of time for your body to recover and adapt to the hard training that you've done for the several months that you've been putting in. And I think if you consider that, you'll get better results. Okay, so how much rest is too much during a taper? I think if you're starting to drop out, you're dropping your volume and intensity, and you're starting to rest 3 weeks or a little more than 3 weeks out, I think that is a little bit too much. And again, it's for some athletes it works. For a lot of athletes it doesn't. And when they change from 3 weeks and they can start doing a 10-day taper, a lot of them start getting results. Also, make sure that you're focusing on keeping your ferritin levels high. Okay. So many athletes doubt themselves, get fatigued, and they think that they're either out of shape or they're past their prime. The problem is a lot of times they're running low on ferritin. This is both for males and females. If you run low on ferritin, it's a component of your blood, and it's very important for oxygen transport throughout the body. Okay? If you run below 30 nanograms per milliliter, you're not going to perform at high levels. Okay, so Dr. Joe Vigil is an example of this, who says For athletes that are below that 30 nanograms, if you're below that, you get a blood test. That's how you find out if you are or not. But if you're feeling extremely fatigued in track and field or in the marathon distance in these longer races, get a blood test. Make sure you tell the physician or the nurse or the doc, the DO, the MD, tell them I want to get my ferritin levels checked and find out where you're at. He says, Dr. Jovial says, to take 1 teaspoon of liquid ferrosol, which is liquid iron, with an 8-ounce glass of orange juice and a 1,000 milligram tablet of vitamin C. Take that once per day for a month to a month and a half. And once you get your ferritin levels back up above 30, you're going to start feeling a difference. Because I was diagnosed with almost anemia. Okay, I was diagnosed back in 2007. I had my ferritin levels were at 21 nanograms per milliliter. So it's far below 30. And I was feeling really fatigued. I did what Dr. Vigil said. And my coach at the time, Lisa Rainsberger, 1985 Boston Marathon champion, take liquid ferrosol. I got my ferritin levels back up to 86, and I started setting PRs. I felt phenomenal, and I never thought to get my ferritin levels checked or my blood checked when I was in high school or college. That entire time, and I think about would it have made a difference in my 1,600 and 3,200 meter times as a high schooler. I had a lot of times where I was doing workouts that were definitely indicating that I could run anywhere from 9:20 to 9:30 for the 3,200 as a high schooler. I ran 9:46. Also in the 1,600, thinking that I could definitely get under 4:20, maybe under 4:15. I ran 4:25 for 1,600, and especially in college. A lot of times I was doing really strong workouts, and a lot of times I was running very poorly as well, and I didn't know what was going on. Did I need to take some rest? All that time, from 1992 all the way to 2000 when I graduated from college, I never got a blood test. I never got a blood test all the way up until 2007. So I spent the majority of my running career, more than likely, anemic or running very low on ferritin. So please take that advice. Please make sure that you keep that in check and you get a blood test and find out that as well. So these little things, adjusting your taper, running the tangents in your races, running the least amount of distance that you can, doing a 5 to 6 month block of training, focus more on 20 to 24 weeks for a marathon versus 8 to 12. You're giving yourself more time to really prepare properly for this particular event. So that's my advice in regards to how much rest is too much during taper, the marathon taper. So hopefully you found this helpful. Please like and share these videos. I really appreciate that. And check out the resources below this video in the description or on RunDreamAchieve.com if you're looking to take your racing to the next level. So thanks again for all your support, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.